Hello and a very happy and healthy new year to you all, and welcome to the big picture. As 2015 was coming to an end, there was much hope and optimism about the Indo-Pakistan relationship taking an upward swing in the new year. The surprise visit of Prime Minister Modi to Lahore to meet his Pakistani counterpart and the rousing welcome he got had kindled that hope and optimism. But as the new year dawned and preparations were on for the continuation of the peace process, the familiar, though not expected so soon, retaliation came at a Pathankot air base of the Indian Air Force. What many see as the act of the spoilers of the Indo-Pak peace process, the attacks which started on early Saturday morning still remains to be neutralized. Though the damage to the airbase has been minimal, the audacity of the attack and right into a major town in Punjab is a matter of great concern, especially since it is the second time the town has been targeted in less than 6 months. So who is behind the attacks? What is the motive behind it? Can the Pakistan establishment absolve itself of any blame? Should India take the peace process forward as planned? And if it does, what kind of assurances should it demand from Pakistan? These and many questions have cropped up following the shocking attack. We will discuss all this today with Vivek Katju, former ambassador, A.S. Dulat, former chief of RAW, Air Vice Marshal retired Kapil of Center for Air Power Studies, and Vinod Sharma, political editor, Hindustan Times. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Katju, did you expect this to happen? Or at least so soon?
Well, there's a familiar ring to this. I think the first signal was sent by the Pakistani generals to Mr. Modi before he took oath. You'll recall the
before
attack.
He took oath, you're going back right 1.5 years.
Absolutely, there was the attack in Herat. Then too Nawaz-e-Sherif was invited here. The next took place, to my mind, in Gurdaspur after the UFA meeting. And the third is this. The purpose is clear. It is the generals who are signaling to Mr. Modi in an unmistakable fashion that they are the actual people who decide Pakistan's India policy, and that howsoever much he may cultivate Mr. Nawaz-Sherif cannot deliver.
But we were told, when the Lahore visit happened, we were all made to believe that the generals were behind this move, and they were very much part of. They were there backing their prime minister in this meeting.
There was no indication from the generals. This was something that was being spread. I do not know what was the basis. It was being said that the very fact that Lieutenant General retired Nasir Janjua had been appointed as the NSA, Pakistan NSA, was an indication that the generals and Nawaz-Sharif were on the same page. But that was an assumption. And that assumption had to be tested. So and that test has come now.
So you are saying that, whatever you have been saying, holding for the last several months or years, even last 1.5 years, it continues to be the same thing. There is no change at all.
Well, the power equation, Girish, in Pakistan is for all to see.
So there is no change in the power equation.
I haven't discerned anything.
Okay.
And this is a clear proof. Can we imagine that the Jaish would mount such an operation, such a huge operation, with so much of firepower available to them?
People, as far as we know.
No, but see the firepower, see the meticulous planning. All this could have been done by someone sitting in Bahawalpur. I mean, let's not be naive or gullible.
Mr. Dulat, would you agree with Mr. Katju? One second thing is, as an intelligence man, what is the most disturbing thing as far as this attack is concerned?
Yeah, I would largely agree with Ambassador Katju, except that I wouldn't be so skeptical and so negative about what Prime Minister Modi attempted. I thought it was a very bold and imaginative initiative or gesture to go to Lahore on his way back from Kabul. And the power equations in Pakistan, I agree with the ambassador that
there's no change in the power equation.
I think they're fairly well known, but that does not necessarily mean that the military is not on board with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's initiatives. It's a slightly grey area, it's slightly iffy, and I think that whatever has been started must continue. The engagement must continue.
We will come to
of
that.
course, we you know,
no, but
you can
as
be,
my
you can be,
question, we'll come to that continuation.
Yeah,
or
you
not,
wanted to
but
know about the intelligence
yes.
thing.
As far as an intelligence
man. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. As an intelligence man, I'm extremely happy that for the first time it has been acknowledged that there was sufficient intelligence. In fact, the Union Home Minister is on record as having said that if it was not for the intelligence, it could have been
worse.
Much worse. So there was intelligence, but what is worse, what is more than the intelligence was that there was an incident which takes place 24 hours prior to the, you know, whatever happened in Pathankot, and still we seem to have taken...
You're talking about the kidnapping of the
Yes,
SP.
yes, that's a very significant event. And we seem to have taken very little cognizance of that either.
And this is when the NSA is supposed to have taken a meeting a day before, that's on Friday itself. You know, and because they had this actionable intelligence. We don't get actionable intelligence so often.
I think the intelligence, as far as I am aware, it's only hearsay, but I'm told it was available on Thursday, as a matter of fact. You know, so we go back.
And it was a very pinpointed.
Yes, that there was intelligence that the boys were coming through, and something like this was likely to happen.
And you think it was not acted upon adequately?
No, it was not acted upon. You know what happens with intelligence is because sometimes too much of it is plied into the system, that people become skeptical. We saw that in 26/11 also, you know, that there was information in September that something was going to happen, and it was scripted almost exactly as it happened. But because nothing happened for 2 months, so people said, I think everything's all right. Yeah, everything's all right. But
here, if you're saying that there was a pinpointed intelligence,
there was
about this particular airbase.
How pinpointed it was. Yes, I think the airbase was mentioned. Yes.
Okay. Air Marshal Kak, you know, as an airman, as somebody, you know, who must have worked in Pathankot also, you know, how do you look at this whole thing? And do you think that the people there were adequately equipped to handle a situation like this?
You know why? My association with Pathankot goes back to 1965 war. I was based there. I think I'd like to make a differentiation in terms of firstly describing Pathankot. As far as the Pathankot tactical actions were concerned, they were copybook. Superb. We need to apprise the viewers that it is not the Air Force job to go outside the air base and secure it. In wars, in conflict situation, it is the job of non-Air Force, ground-based forces, whether it's the paramilitary forces or the army, to see that even if there's a need to have 3 tiers of security around the airfield, those are in place so that no one enters. This has been at the strategic level, I think, a disastrous failure of decision making.
We are told that these people just climbed the wall and got in.
That is exactly the point I'm trying to make. Please understand, Girish, it's a 7 kilometer by 5 kilometer base, 35 square kilometers of base. Can you imagine the kind of visual at Air Force, a small element? Their job is to train, to fly, maintain and administer the base from inside, for which they have some small components of Garuds. This is the classical decision-making failure at the highest levels. Intelligence, I have not known of
highest,
any...
How high?
I mean, I don't want to pinpoint.
No,
I
you
think
have
that's
to.
not the question is the strategic level. We need to understand who was in charge of this operation.
Who was in charge? By the way, who was in charge?
Well, I think there are people here who can give you an answer,
Dulat,
but let me first.
Okay.
In charge will be later. Let me first say how it has happened. Now, we have intelligence available well before, as Dulat said, Thursday we have intelligence. Friday was positive intelligence. By Friday...
There was a meeting also.
We've got facts on Friday.
Right.
Friday, the driver of the taxi has been killed. The SP, Mr. Salbinder Singh, he goes to a police station and describes exactly what happens to him. Punjab police does nothing. For 15 hours...
They don't believe him. Apparently, they didn't believe him.
I don't know what is their problem, but I want to tell you that there are 15 hours, the terrorists are all over Punjab. all over in the vicinity of Gurdaspur and Pathankot. 15 hours. No one knows. I mean, excuse me. And we are supposed to have counter-terrorism capacities which were sought to be developed as per the BJP manifesto. Forget about developing that capability. Have we applied that capability? Any base commander of an air force anywhere in the world will cry blue murder and tell his bosses, for God's sake, secure my bases from outside. Well, once a guy comes inside, you have this botched up operation, 3 days. Now it's maybe 61 or 62 hours since those guys entered. It's a foliage, the woods that are there, it's a hopeless cause once people enter. So that's the first point. The second point is, this is where I have a problem with what Vivek said a while ago. Of course, Mr. Dulat was a little more subtle and nuanceical in his response. It's my understanding that the Pakistan Army Chief and the ISI are on board the peace process. I have a differentiation with Mr.
Are on board with the peace process.
On the
okay, you
Modi
disagree
dialogue,
with them.
It's not just, I mean, we seem to believe that Modi Sahab got this great brainwave on the
And then just
25th of
landed
December and went there. He has been pressurized by Putin, Xi Jinping, Cameron, Hollande, and most of all Barack Obama. Equal pressures have been exercised on Pakistan and India, especially after SCO entry for India and Pakistan, that Eurasian geopolitical plates are shifting. Let us see a new reality with ISIS as the major threat at the background. West Asia is on fire. Can we sort of put the fires down here? So where now you would, I could be asked, I can see Vivek is smiling, then how have they intruded?
I'm amused.
This is where an intrusion can take place. Please read Christine Fair once again if you wish to read. There are rogue elements in the Pakistan Army, amongst the Pakistan Rangers, who could allow this. That can happen.
Okay. I mean,
and lastly, Girish, lastly, let us also understand the footprint of this, the signature of this attack is almost similar to the attack on Kamran and attack on the naval base, on the Air Force base at Kamra and the naval base at Mehran. Copybook, exactly the same. You will say, how do you measure them together? Because the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and the Jaish-E-Mohammed are no more, but never have been under control earlier. There's been some problem.
I mean, I think you made interesting points, sir. I want both of you to respond before I go to Vinod. Sir, would you like to respond very quickly?
Look, the Pakistan Army does not look at the larger picture when it comes to India-Pakistan. If what Kapil is saying is true, then I am totally intrigued by the fact that Nasir Janjua wasn't there at this meeting. I am further intrigued by the fact that there is nothing on record that despite this now going on for 3 days, Janjua has called his friend Mr. Doval and offered help. There's, except for a perfunctory routine statement from the Pakistan Foreign Office, there's total silence from GHQ. Now, I do not know why this desperate need to feel and think that the Pakistani army is on board with Nawaz Sharif when there is no evidence to that effect. These presumptions, how long will we frame policy on presumptions and assumptions, Kapil?
Yes.
Live in a world of make-believe.
I would like to believe what the Marshal just said. My whatever little I know, I also have heard the same thing, that the army is on board, that the ISI is on board, and certainly...
You would like to believe that?
I would like to believe.
But you don't want to believe?
Whatever I've heard, I do believe. I believe also that General Janjua is on board. But there is a little catch here, and the catch is, where I disagree with the Marshal, is that when it comes to the Jaish, or I'm not talking of TTP, I'm talking of Jaish and Lashkar, which we've had to deal with. We take them as two sides of the same coin. And, in Pakistan, they call them non-state actors or whatever. Now, if that be so, we have never accepted that theory. Let's be honest. But if that be so, then I think there's all the more reason for the NSS to talk immediately.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Vinod, so you think that the Pakistan Prime Minister will be able to explain to his to our Prime Minister why this happened and how this happened? Because the continuation of the peace process. We are now being told. I just read that there is a possibility that the meetings between the foreign secretaries may get postponed a little because of this. But anyway, even if it has to be held even on a later date, you think the Pakistan Prime Minister will have anything to justify this, what has happened?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that I can't prejudge the Prime Minister of Pakistan as to what he's going to do. But I am, as a news person and someone who was interested in India-Pak relations, I'm waiting for a formal word from my own government.
And someone who knows the Pakistan Prime Minister
Yes,
pretty
and
well.
I know him. But that doesn't mean that I can judge his actions, or prejudge his actions. I would like to. I'm waiting for a formal word from the Indian establishment, from the government of India, as to what went wrong, what exactly is the issue, and which, according to them, are the forces involved. Jaish-E-Mohammed, I know, is holed up in the southern Punjab, of the Pakistani side of Punjab, and there have been reports in the past of the Sharif government seeking to keep them in good humor, together with the Lashkar-e-Taiba, to keep peace in Punjab. Their side, because Punjab, if you know, in relative terms, is the most peaceful province, perhaps the only peaceful province of Pakistan, compared to what's happening in Sindh or Balochistan or the frontier, especially the FATA areas. But one thing which intrigues me, and which I would expect Mr. Dulat and Mr. Kak and my friend Ambassador Katju to dwell upon, that, they abducted that superintendent of police and then used his phone to make calls back home, as if they were on a picnic, and this, I believe, it was a clear attempt to leave footprints which could be traced back to Pakistan. Now, if this has been done, and if these reports which are found mentioned in newspapers are correct, then perhaps the strategy was also to not just hit the airbase, but also to hit the peace process. You see, do two things together. You are carrying out an operation. If it is an establishment operation, it may well be, elements from the Pakistan army and the ISI might be involved in this, and their friends in these extra state players may be involved in this. But why should they be leaving footprints that so easily make us connect this incident to Pakistan? Similarly,
and then using the
telephone
phone of one of the abducted people and talking to his
mother. And mother is, it's such a cute conversation happening between the son and the mother. Ki beta khana kha lena, don't go hungry, have some food before you commit suicide, or die in the service of the God. Allah ki raah mein shaheed hone se pehle. Secondly, Mazar-e-sherif happens almost, it's not a coincidence. I don't take it as a coincidence. It is not a coincidence, because the symbolism attached to the Prime Minister's visit to Lahore was about Kabul, Lahore and Delhi. It was a downward journey. He couldn't make the upward journey. He was making the downward journey. And there can be indeed, and I was at a similar discussion on Dawn TV just about 2 minutes back before I entered the studio. And there Kasuri and Sherry Rahman were the other participants. And Kasuri was making the same point, that there are forces which are inimical to this dialogue process, that they have a vested interest in hostility and war, and they are trying to dislodge it. Now, I do not know whether that is correct or not. But what I am saying
you're essentially in tune with what Kapil Kak and Mr. Dulat are saying.
I have my degree of skepticism about it, because I'm not empowered by full details by my own government yet. Once I hear from my own government, I think I will be able to make an assessment of my own.
Okay, Mr. Katju.
I'll tell you what is the connection, and I'm clear in my mind.
You are talking of the connection between Mazar-e-sherif,
between Kabul, Mazar-e-sherif
and Pathankot.
I think the generals were waiting very clearly to see what Mr. Modi was going to say in Kabul. What Mr. Modi said would have angered them enormously. He didn't name Pakistan, but he clearly pointed fingers at Pakistan in a speech which was excellent. And the remarks that he made were completely appropriate.
Right.
But the Pakistani generals are very, very sensitive when it comes to anything dealing with India and Afghanistan. And the Indian Prime Minister at the inauguration of the Parliament says that Afghanistan will not be at peace till there is no cross-border terrorism, that the nurseries and sanctuaries of terrorists are finished, eliminated. He talks of mysterious consulates, Indian consulates. All that would have angered them. Now, what have they sent? They first of all sent a signal to him that, look, we are the
So, are you trying to say that the Prime Minister's speech in Kabul was responsible for all this?
Not entirely, but yes, they would have been watching that. And that is why you have Mazar. You have Mazar, you have Pathankot. They are signaling to him that there will be further movement on our terms. And they have been, unfortunately, encouraged on this. How?
Okay.
No, but just 1 second. They have been encouraged.
Girish, one second, I'll come to you. I'll come to
They
you
have
now.
been encouraged because the UFA joint statement was allowed to be diluted. Both
And
on venue and on substance.
I thought
Girish,
all
one
this
thing I
was
want to
behind us,
make,
but
you know,
yes,
on the
Vinod.
Prime Minister's speech, I think that I would read the Prime Minister's speech, not the passages which the ambassador has just quoted, but the passages which had the Prime Minister saying that India, Pakistan and Iran should work jointly for the reconstruction of Afghanistan, and Pakistan can be a bridge between Afghanistan and South Asia and West Asia.
Okay.
The point
No,
is,
but you know,
The generals take all that as PR.
Okay. But
As
the point,
public
but
relations.
you see, and the Prime Minister did not name Pakistan even once in his speech.
but that was,
But
it was quite
the
obvious.
allusion was perfectly in order,
No, but,
the
Vinod-
substance was
but
also
Vinod,
creative.
We know the issue is how the generals read it, how you read or I read.
I mean,
or
I
what-
don't know. I
how
don't
the
read the
Afghans
minds of the
read it.
generals.
Mr. Dulat, how do you read it? Do you agree with what Katju is saying?
You know, it's very difficult either to agree or disagree with the ambassador.
okay, you can strike your own path.
But you know, the thing is that I don't. If Mazar-e-sherif occurred because of whatever our Prime Minister said in Kabul, then obviously it has no connection with Pathankot.
No, Pathankot is
these
part
are two
of the
things.
same thing.
You don't see any connection between
I-
Pathankot and Mazar-e-sherif.
No, there may be a connect as far as
You don't think it's the same group acting here and there.
Maybe even that, but you know, I don't think that all these things have been planned together just because of a speech in Kabul. No, not at all. And I would still like to believe that the Pakistan establishment or the Pakistan military and the ISI are on board. But as I said, it is a grey area, and we have to wait and watch. I don't think there are any definite answers at this point.
Okay, Air Marshal Kak, now, you know, if the peace process has to continue, Mr. Dulat has already, given out his mind saying that it should continue. I'll come back to him, but if it has to continue, what are the assurances which India needs to take from them before they continue the talks?
I think this is a very, very crucial segment of this conversation. I'd like to draw the attention of the viewers and of course also of the panel, the amazing, absolutely fascinating strategic sense that our print media and also our television media have shown in this critical situation. 7 of the 8 national dailies have said we must continue with the dialogue.
Right.
Unlike in the past. Talking about
unlike in the past.
This is what I think Indian society
Has evolved,
it's matured, and in a sense it's also encouraging the government to sort of embark on this
and
path.
You agree with that?
I completely support.
Okay.
But no, there is one more. There is a second point. We talked about the inputs that Vivek gave. Of the High Commissioners in Pakistan, whom Sushma Swaraj met yesterday, it was an old meeting which was postponed and finally held yesterday.
I mean, they were
The
former
general
former
consensus,
diplomats.
even amongst people who have generally adopted a hardline stance in Pakistan, they too have matured. So, I mean, I'm very encouraged.
Okay.
So, we are
I don't know.
looking strategic, we are not looking tactical, we are not looking at posturing, we are not mistaking transactional movements between, the army said this and the ISI said this. We are rising about. And this
We're
demands
looking at the larger picture.
If I might just add to
Yes.
that, because you talked about what assurances. I don't think we need to get into that. Neither will we have any assurances immediately forthcoming. You know, this is going to be. It has to be based on your
Very
confidence
subtle.
and your
No,
trust.
the question is, Mr. Dulat, very quickly.
Either this
I'll
is
come
the
to
right
Mr.
thing
Katju.
or it's not the right thing.
Mr. Katju, Mr. Dulat.
Yes.
The question is, there have been dialogues between.
So what I'm trying
sir,
to
in
say
the
is
last
you can have as many assurances
I'm
as
not.
you like.
I'm coming. No, I have a different question. There have been, dialogues between the Prime Minister at the highest level, it has happened twice or thrice in the last few months, and then foreign secretaries have met, NSAs have met. Do you think at any of these meetings there has been any discussion on this whole issue of how to deal
Okay,
with this
let
kind
me-
of situation if it
Let
develops?
me put it like this, sir. 1 minute. The same Prime Minister, the same government is on record as having said that terrorism and talks cannot go together.
Exactly.
But the Prime Minister did go to Lahore. He
Right.
did talk. He did stick his neck out. So I don't see any reason for him now to completely withdraw. That's the way I'm putting it.
Okay, Mr. Katju.
No, I
Sir, I'll
find
come
it.
to you.
I find it passing strange that here is a country.
Have we evolved? Have we matured according to?
Please, just let me say my view. Here's a country which says that India is a permanent threat or permanent enemy, which embarks on slaughter, which soon after the Prime Minister's bold and courageous initiative launches this attack. And they have launched this attack. Let's not say that everyone is on the same page, etc.
You don't agree with them?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Right. And then we are willing to overlook it entirely. Now, what is my point? My point is that in the two NSAs have established a dialogue. Aren't we going to hold the Pakistan establishment
That is exactly
responsible? Aren't we, please, Kapil, just a second, aren't we going to call the Pakistan NSA and say, chum, what is happening? Why aren't you coming clean? Why don't you take action against the Jaish? Or are we going to just overlook them?
Has this never been asked? Has this never been asked? so far?
It has been asked. There's nothing happened. And what have we said? 25
I-
years.
I
want to come in on.
That's why
And
I
that
said,
is why we continue to suffer.
to just support what Ambassador said, that's why I said I think the NSAs need to meet immediately without anybody knowing.
Yes.
No, people need to know. We need the signal. No, we need a signal from the Pakistanis.
No more
that they are
secret
willing to
meetings.
give it up.
No more secret
Of
meetings.
course.
Very quickly, sir.
How come
We're
the
running out of time.
public opinion in this
Well,
country is
when
not
Mr.
reflected only by these
When
dailies?
Mr.
Okay, sir.
Brajesh Mishra started his back channel.
This is not a
Okay,
back
sir.
I
channel.
think the process would
This
have
is
been
not a
much
back channel,
No, but when
sir.
Far
NSA
more-
talks,
Mr.
it
Dulat,
doesn't need
okay.
to be publicized.
Yes.
the process would have been far more difficult for Mr. Modi to take forward if this was not a botched up operation, which Vinod has pointed out.
Okay, sir.
Because no, there's a critical point here. If somehow the Air Force commander had not sanitized his assets and you had blown up
I said,
5
that
MiG-21
don't defend the
it would
Air
have been a
Force.
bigger
Come
challenge.
along
Why
with
do I
the
agree?
No, no,
stakes.
I
It
tell
is
you.
far more at stake
Okay.
than only the Air Force.
I don't
Absolutely.
think you have understood the
Vinod,
matter
very
of
quickly,
dimension.
very quickly, we're out of
It
time.
needs a
You
little
think
more
that the peace
understanding.
process should
Clearly.
continue?
If you
Yes,
had
sir, we are-
blown up that base,
I know, it would have been a
it
difficult.
would have been a global crisis. He wouldn't have been able to describe.
Okay,
Come
okay,
along.
Vinod, very quickly.
I
You
know
think that
this-
the process should continue?
I think that this is the time to show equanimity of mind and not get upset, Because if you are going to act in anger, you're going to repent for a long time later.
Okay.
But may I say one thing?
Very quickly.
But may I say one thing? That much of the support for the dialogue that is there in the press, I'm all for dialogue. May not actually be, a natural impulse. But let's not get into that.
Okay, we'll get- that's a separate discussion altogether.
Because I have seen,
As far as the media
in
is
recent
concerned.
discussions, I have seen that, Mr. Katju is an honorable exception, but some people who are as, hardlined as him are lately
I'm
a
not
little,
hardline, come along.
they are lately a little softer
Okay.
in their approach to
Vinod,
India.
that's a separate discussion. But
Vivek is
anyway,
saying is more than hardline.
normally we don't have such animated discussions in the studio on this program. But today, the way it happened, it only shows that it is not something which is going to be easy for the government to tackle this situation. Let's see how they will tackle. As Vinod said, we're still waiting for the government of India's response to this whole thing. Once the response comes, we'll be in a better position to understand what will be the move forward. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, The Big Picture, same time tomorrow.